Oh, wake up, rethink the status quo. When you get your money right, then you're the one who runs your life. Come build a wealthy spirit with Sammie and Michelle.
Sammie, what is something that we love to talk about that we think is so important?
It's tracking your spending.
Unfortunately, Sammie, sometimes I think as many times as we say it's important to track your spending, it doesn't necessarily hit with people.
I don't get it. It is the single most life-changing thing you could do for your finances, in my opinion, because it will lead to other changes. But people never want to do it.
I have to say, Sammie, I have some empathy for people. It's not exactly sexy, and there are probably a few different reasons why people don't immediately go pull out a spreadsheet and track their spendings.
Clearly, we have different definitions of what's sexy.
One thing is I think we know how much money we're spending. We have a calculator in our head. I do this. I think, okay, I went to Costco the other day. I spent $100. I got gas. Those are probably my biggest expenses. But in reality, when you actually track your spending, you realize that you don't know.
Another thing, too tedious. They think it seems monotonous, time-consuming, and a lot of work.
There are a lot of ways to make it easy.
I would argue that sometimes it's your money, your hard-earned money that you're spending. Maybe it shouldn't be so easy to just look at it real quick. Maybe you need to spend a little time with it and be intimate with it, not to deter people more.
Agree to disagree there, Sammie. I think making it easy is a great decision. But I think one of the biggest things is it's hard to see how the action of tracking your spending can lead to meaningful change. You imagine yourself sitting there, pulling all the numbers, going into your bank, trying to create a graph, running into an issue because graphs can be so stupid sometimes on Google Docs.
Excel.
You're right, Sammie. You do it on Google Docs. I do it on Google Spreadsheets. But here's the thing. Sammie and I are here to tell you that if you track your spending, if you do it for a few months, you just pay attention to how you're doing it. Don't even put pressure on yourself to make any changes. But I would be surprised if you actually didn't make change. And that being said, we are going to really dive in today on the beauty of tracking your spending and how it can be sexy. We're making it sexy today.
Let's get into it.
But first, I want to talk about our partner, AirHelp. Let me tell you something. If you're tracking your spending, you might realize that one of your expenses, like myself, is a $200 hotel fee because we got stuck in Dallas overnight. And when I called the airlines, let me tell you, they were like, boo-boo. We're not doing anything for you. Everybody got trapped. There was a storm. Luckily, a partner like AirHelp is so helpful because you can just give them the information and they will go and see if you are entitled to certain compensation, certain rights because you are an air passenger. So if you find yourself in a situation like that, go ahead and use the link in our show notes, AirHelp. You will be glad you have them.
Now back to today's topic, tracking our spending. Now you might be wondering, what do we mean by this? We mean looking at every expense that you have spent and seeing how much you spend monthly.
Yes, literally going through every charge on your credit card, your Venmo, writing down what you spend in cash, if that's how you do it, and tracking where each dollar is going.
Personally, I think it's good to be super active in tracking our spending, meaning I like to actually write down every single charge instead of just using things like Mint or my credit card to see in general where things have gone, because I do believe there's a big difference.
And when you say write, Sammie, you mean put into a document or a spreadsheet?
Yes. By doing this, you see if your spending aligns with your values. If you notice that all your money is going to Uber Eats, is that your most important value? Versus if all your money is going to spending time with friends, that's very, very different.
Yeah, and we can't tell you which one of those is better for you. That's up to you personally. What I think you're saying, Sammie, is literally the most important part of tracking your spending. It's not to be miserly and Scroogerly and just be obsessed with how you're spending your money. It's about actually seeing, are there places where I'm spending money that actually don't mean that much to me, but I'm doing them out of habit or thoughtlessly? And so that is why we want to say tracking your spending can be fun, because you're not trying to get rid of things that you enjoy doing. You're trying to maybe save a little bit of money on things that probably aren't that enjoyable for you.
So you're probably wondering, how do I do it? This is what I do. I personally go through my bank account, my Venmo, and I see where I have spent money in every single category, and I try to do this weekly or bi-weekly.
Okay, Sammie, be honest.
I use a Google Doc. This is what she's getting at. I use Google Docs. I think it's more aesthetically pleasing. So I like to make it so that each week is its own little chart, and that's how I track my spending.
Actually, I was going to call you out for the weekly, bi-weekly. But yes, Sammie does do everything in Google Docs, even though I personally think spreadsheets are more convenient. I'm saying be honest with the people. In the past few months, have you been weekly or bi-weekly tracking your spending?
No. In fact, for the past year, I haven't been tracking my spending. Maybe 2 years, actually.
I don't think that's true.
The truth is, I got into a good routine where I was not spending so much money. I was saving a lot of money, and I was investing my money, and things are going well. So I kind of let go of tracking my spending.
It's easy when you live in a desert.
When I first went on sabbatical, I did start tracking again. However, I found that maybe I was being a little bit cheap. I realized this in December when I calculated my net worth, and it had gone up quite a bit, despite the fact that I wasn't working, and I realized I have to loosen up a little bit and learn how to spend a little more.
Hey, and that's an awesome benefit, right? Tracking your spending didn't have to be unfun.
It didn't. And the thing is, let me be honest, I missed it. I was talking to one of our listeners, Tamara, who just got into tracking her spending, and it was such a great conversation. She was so inspired. And I was like, why did I ever stop tracking? I loved it. Honestly, I loved it. People say it's unnecessary after a while, but I think it's necessary. And so I've gotten back into it, and let me tell you, it brings me joy once again.
I'm so happy to hear that, Sammie. And that brings us to the benefits of tracking our spending. Here we are talking about the joys of it, but what are the actual tangible benefits of tracking our spending? Why do we think it's so important?
Michelle, great question. Personally, I think when you take an item from your credit card statement and you put it into your, in my case, Word doc chart, you have a contact with that item. I think during our life, during our days, we just are so often just like swiping our card. Oh, let me get this real quick, adding things to the list. And we just kind of forget everything. Like we're so not mindful, and we're just constantly like buying things. And to slow down and look at everything that I bought, did this bring me joy? Do I love this? I'm so grateful for this. Just to be able to look at it and see what you did. Remember that moment where I was like, I think I should purchase this, and then put it in the cart and then got it. Just to like take that moment in time and slow it down. That is one of the biggest benefits of tracking your spending. Mindfulness.
Mindfulness is so great, Sammie, because we assume that we're going to be anxious looking at our money. And maybe it is a little scary the first time. But actually, I think it's more anxiety provoking, for me at least, to have absolutely no idea what's going on. You start to create stories in your head, when in reality, you can just look at the numbers and have an answer for certain. The other thing that I loved that you said was how you can be grateful. And I think that really brings us to the second benefit, gratitude for your money and what it can bring you.
It's true, Michelle. I think people don't realize it's not all scary. There is a lot of gratitude. We go to work, or maybe we invest money, and because of that, we have money to spend doing the things we love. For example, this week when I was tracking my spending, I saw me and Michelle went to go see Wicked.
Defying gravity!
We're going to be going ice skating later this month. And it just made me appreciate, I can do these things because I have the money to, and I love doing these things. And I'm so grateful that I'm able to do those things. They're luxuries. They're things that are optional, but I'm able to do it because of the money that I have.
Yes, Sammie. we end up having gratitude. And then we go to that event. We're not at dinner thinking, oh, how much should I tip? Is this going to cost me too much money? No, we are in control of how we're spending. And we know that the thing we're doing is aligned with how we're spending our money because we made a choice to do it. And we're grateful for how we're spending our money. I think that also brings us to probably something that seems obvious. The benefit of tracking your spending is you know how much you're spending. And that can help you in so many different ways. A big one being noticing patterns. For me, I noticed when I was tracking my spending in the past that I was spending hundreds of extra dollars because I would wait to book airplane tickets to events that I knew for months that I was attending. This includes things like international trips. This is a terrible habit of mine.
And with free cancellation, there's really no excuse these days.
I don't think cancellation is always free, but I appreciate that thought. You can at least afford to do it if you book ahead of time. I was looking at the first half of November and the money that I was spending, and my biggest expense was a wedding that I'm going to for my wonderful friend Alicia in July. And you would maybe think, oh, that's a negative experience. My top expense, $300, is this plane ticket in itself. However, that's 6 months away. That ticket in the past, I would spend probably $1,000 on just because I would wait until like 2 weeks before, even though I know today in November that I am going to attend the wedding. And so actually, I'm so happy that I noticed a pattern, which was that I spent too much money on airline tickets. And I know that going to Vancouver, flying from the East Coast to the West Coast is going to be super expensive. If I wait, I'm not going to have a lot of options. I'm going to end up on a red eye doing 2 transfers in Edmonton if I don't book early. And so I was grateful and so happy to see that I noticed a pattern and fixed it.
2, unseen benefit, healthy competition with yourself. I like to sum up all my expenses at the end of the month. So I track, right now I'm doing weekly because I got free time. So I track weekly, and then at the end of the month, I tally up everything. There I do use Excel. And I figure out how much I spent, and I see what the total is. And I love doing this because when I see the total, I'm always like, maybe next month I can spend less. And I get into this little competition with myself, seeing how low can I go. It makes it fun. It makes it a game. And it is a game. Money's a game. We can spend less, and that's fun. And then we can take that money and then invest that extra money. And then that is literally time in our future. We get extra time in the future because of what we did. It's literally like a video game. So for me, that healthy competition with myself is the most fun thing.
I love that for you, Sammie. I don't personally make it a competition for myself, but I think a lot of people resonate with that. You can make it a game. You can gamify the experience. Also, knowing how much you spend means you know how much you spend every month, and that will help you see how much more income you need to bring in, see what your FI number is. You can actually calculate, if I spend this much money on every month, how much money do I need for my lifetime? So those type of things, that data is so valuable because you can do a lot with it to buy your freedom in the future.
Takeaways.
Takeaways for this episode.
The biggest takeaway is tracking your spending is sexy. It can be fun. We encourage you to do it because it helps you be mindful about how you're spending your money. You can be grateful for the things that you're purchasing. You can notice patterns, have healthy competition, gamify it, and actually know your numbers for when you want to reach things like financial independence. We encourage you to do it for a few months, and if nothing changes, you can always abandon it.
Community time.
Before we say goodbye, it's our community time.
Thanks to our listener, Paul. He loved our episode on writing a thank you letter to your past self, and he sent over a list of things that he was thankful for. For example, eating low carb, low sugar for the past 10 years. That's 2014. I gotta say, that's before a lot of people were doing it. I remember. 2, taking care of his dental health. 3, wearing crazy looking glasses because it helps him let go of people's judgment. And 4, creating the meetup Deep Talk where we all met each other. I love that, Paul.
Hearts. Also, hearts to Dylan. He said he really enjoyed the past self-letter newsletter that we send, buildawealthyspirit.com. You can join our newsletter. He appreciates the vulnerability, and he said it's a cheat code to human connection. Thank you so much, Dylan. I really appreciate it. Let us know what you think on tracking your spending and what you think your biggest expense might be. buildawealthyspirit.com.
And most importantly, be sure to join us next time as we put down the rulebook and we rethink the status quo.